we have the Epic Storm.
That's right.
Ruben, who's an advantage at this matchup? Who's going to win the match?
Well, John Ashworth is up a game somehow. I honestly would not have expected that. Bryant Cook, the creator of Ad Nauseam Tendrils there on the right, he's up against John Ashworth, who is piloting the little green men on the little red cards.
Yep.
And as you can see, we're in the middle of resolving an Ad Nauseam. Bryant Cook has a beautiful deck, by the way.
Oh, he really does. We were talking about it before. A bunch of black border duels, a lot of foils. So really
well,
nice.
when you're responsible for the creation of a deck, you should probably have the prettiest and the best version.
It is pretty amazing that John won game 1. And after board, his matchup actually isn't that bad anymore. He has access to 3 copies of Thalia, which is very good against the Epic Storm.
Absolutely, yeah. Not a ton of answers, efficient answers, I should say, in Bryant Cook's deck. He does have Abrupt Decay. He does have Cabal Therapy if he expects it.
Sure.
But yeah, Thalia definitely throws a wrench in the works.
Also, we'll probably see Red Elemental Blast.
Yep.
That's something else there as well. So it looks like Bryant Cook's probably going to be going off this game, though.
Yep, he has a storm count of 12.
12, it looks like, yeah. And it looks like John just has nothing.
Yep, we're up to 16.
There's a probe, 17. He'll draw off that.
He's digging for, I think that he has the requisite mana and storm count to be able to cast the Burning Wish, to be able to go get anything from his sideboard.
Get a Tendrils.
Yep, get the Tendrils, plenty of mana to be able to kill you. Show him the Tendrils and the foil Mize in the sideboard. Oh, he wanted to go for the Grape Shot kill.
Right.
I see.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so they're going to be going to a game 3. John is going to be on the play with Goblins, and he has sideboard cards for this matchup. Do you think the Epic Storm is just too strong to disrupt, or do you think John will have a shot for game 3? What do you think?
I never count out Goblins because as bad as any matchup looks,
yes,
it can always come back because Goblins is just that kind of a deck. It has the most powerful card draw spell in the format in Goblin Ringleader.
Yeah, definitely.
Surprisingly, Goblins has the best pure card draw spell in the format, and it's a 2/2 haste creature.
All right. So if you had to guess what John were to bring in, is there any definite cards looking at a sideboard?
Absolutely bringing in the Thalia Guardians of Thragon.
Okay.
Tailor-made for this matchup. Anytime you see a deck with no creature spells, it's coming in.
Sure.
I would not be surprised if some number of Relic of Progenitus didn't come in, because Past in Flames is one of the main ways for Ad Nauseam Tendrils to be able to go off, especially if your life total is low enough that you can't Ad Nauseam for a requisite amount of mana. And the Red Elemental Blast, I think, is a pretty safe bet.
He wants to stop Ponder, wants to stop Brainstorm.
Yeah, it's not at its best in this matchup because it's only Ponder, Brainstorm, and Gitaxian Probe, as well as diminishing returns out of the sideboard. But I would not be surprised to see it come in. He's also got a lot of dead cards he certainly wants to take out. I think that, you've pointed out correctly, the Gem Palm Incinerator is just way too slow. Siege Gang Commander is probably too slow as well. Sting Scourger certainly going to come out as well. So he's got plenty of options of what to take out if he wants to bring in 7, maybe even 8 cards.
Yeah, Siege Gang is nice if you could get the turn 1 Goblin Lackey draw. So we're not too sure what he's going to cut, but do you think him boarding in too many cards will dilute the Goblin theme to his deck? He's also bringing in Thalia, which is not a Goblin, or do you think that doesn't really play a factor?
No, that's certainly a problem, especially for a deck that wants to have the critical mass of Goblins. As I mentioned, with Goblin Ringleader, the less Goblins you have in your deck, the fewer cards it draws.
Sure.
But some cards are just clearly have to come out. The Sting Scourger and the 4 Gem Palm Incinerators obviously are coming out.
And they just do nothing,
and they just do absolutely nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just those 5 and he brought in the 3 Thalias with 2 of the relics.
Okay, and
would not be surprising.
Maybe the 1 Red Elemental Blast?
Maybe. I mean, again, there's only about
12
blue spells, 13 if you count the diminishing returns, and they're all cantrips. They aren't really important parts of the deck. So I could see it coming in just as a sort of a trick to try and trip up Bryant, but it's not terribly impressive for me. I would much rather have the 3rd relic over the Red Elemental Blast. Over on Bryant Cook's side, it remains to be seen if he saw a plateau in either of the first 2 games. If he saw a plateau, he can almost guarantee that Thalia is what's going going to be happening. So Abrupt Decay would be coming in, as would Chain of Vapor. I think that both of those are things that he is probably bringing in anyway just to survive.
Yeah, he's probably definitely at least thinking about it. He's definitely very comfortable with the Epic Storm. He knows all the matchups. So I wonder how much does John know about the Epic Storm? Do you think he knows this matchup? Maybe, maybe not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Bryant knows all of the matchups. So he's going to have the perfect sideboard plan. I think that I've talked with him a little bit about the creature matchups before. I remember covering a match with him where he played against Maverick, which is another Thalia-based creature deck. And of course, things like Duress are going to come out. He has 2 main deck Duress. Silence, not particularly good in the creature matches.
Definitely not.
Unless he anticipates silence from his opponent, which is, not something that you would normally expect from a Goblins deck. We would much rather see a Thalia. And so those 6 cards can almost certainly come out and bring in the Abrupt Decays with Chain of Vapor and possibly another Cabal Therapy as the 6th card. So he's not diluting his deck too much either. Both of these players have very streamlined, very linear decks that need to have as many other pieces together. So there's 5 cards coming out, 5 cards going in, maybe 6 for each player. But both players are going to just be playing their game plan. And hope that it's good enough.
Well, they might be, because they're both mulliganing the 6, so maybe they won't play their game plan.
That's right.
Sometimes when you mulligan the 6, mulligan the 5, you just have to play whatever cards you really draw.
And in this matchup, the mulligan absolutely favors the Goblins player.
Yes.
It's even though he'll be on the play and Bryant will end up with the extra card to be able to start with 7, being able to start early with your creatures and keeping Bryant off of 1 less spell, 1 less land, is a whole nother turn that Goblins has to try to kill you.
Definitely.
That extra turn often represents double digits in damage. So,
yeah, most combo decks really need all their resources. It's tough to go off just if you don't have the 5 cards, even if you don't have the 6 cards sometimes, especially if John could have a Thalia. Now Brian has to think, and he has to play a whole different game. He has to play around the Thalia, or maybe he has to answer the Thalia before he can really go off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think John is fine with this. If there was, both going down to 5, I think John would also be fine with that. When it gets down to 4 or 3, it comes down to a lot of luck, we'll say. But for now, I think John being on the play and both players mulliganing slightly favors the Goblin deck here. So we'll wait and see. Maybe he'll have a turn 1 Goblin Lackey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Turn 1 Lackey, turn 2 Thalia. One of the best draws he could get. Yeah. And Brian Cook doesn't have something like a Swords to Plowshare. He really can't stop a Lackey. If Lackey comes down, Brian Cook is on a clock.
Yep. The only option that he would have at that point is to wait a turn, which is not ideal, to be able to Abrupt Decay, or use one of his 2 Chain of Vapors, which he would much rather use on the Thalia.
Yeah.
I misspoke earlier. I apologize. Bryant Cook is the creator of the Epic Storm, not of Ad Nauseam Tendrils.
Sure.
Which there's a slight difference between the 2 decks. Yeah. I'll briefly explain what the difference is. Basically, it's more colors. So you have access to Silence, you have access to things like Xantid Swarm out of the sideboard. Occasionally you'll see Carpet of Flowers, whereas the Ad Nauseam Tendrils deck is a 2-color deck.
Yeah.
Usually
the Epic Storm
splashing,
is 5 colors.
Yes, Epic Storm is 5 colors, being able to splash for Silence and Abrupt Decay, although these days even Ad Nauseam Tendrils is splashing for Past in Flames, and oftentimes splashing for Abrupt Decay as well.
Most of the time, the combo decks kind of branch out and it kind of blends together.
Yeah.
So...
It's sort of like the difference between Blue-Red Splinter Twin and Blue-White-Red Splinter Twin in Modern, or Kiki Pod and Malira Pod in Modern. There are some different card choices, but the end game is the same.
Yeah, exactly.
And that end game, of course, is to get up to 10 Storm and Tendrils your opponent, or as we saw in the last game, get up to 20 Storm and Grape Shot your opponent, just to stretch those muscles.
All right, so John is going down to 5.
Yep, looks like Bryant is happy with his 6. Bryant's going to go down to 5.
Yeah. John's from around here, just about a 30-minute drive. So, came out for Legacy. So far doing really well, 6-0. Last round I watched him beat my friend Eric Smith. The matchup was Goblins versus a Blue-White-Red Delver with Geist and Daze and Lightning Bolt and whatnot. Right. And I went to 3 games. Actually, pretty interesting. Game 1, Eric Smith mulliganed down to 4 and defeated John.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the second time this weekend that I either watched or heard of a story where one guy kept 7 The other guy mulled to 4, and the guy who won, one
ended
on
up
4.
having the 4 cards. Yeah, let his opponent have a concentrate for free. It's pretty surprising. And then he lost the next 2 on 7.
And then he lost the next 2 on 7 and then 6, I believe it was. So really crazy Magic this weekend. It's definitely been exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Legacy is a very volatile meta game. You can just as easily spend 20 turns saying draw and go as you can dying on turn 2.
Yeah, it's crazy, and there's so many different decks. There's so many different, powerful cards that people want to play, and for the most part, players come to Legacy tournaments to play what they want to play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, lots of times you won't see the players playing the best deck because in Legacy there's not really a best deck.
Well, as we saw in the Standard tournament yesterday and at Grand Prix Miami, actually, if you play what you know in Standard and in Legacy, you will get rewarded.
Oh yeah, you definitely have a huge advantage.
So we're going to start off Game 3 here, the ultimate match here of this Round 7 feature match with Ether Vial from John Ashworth. And Brian Cook is going to start with Gitaxian Probe. He sees Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, and Siege Gang Commander, along with Goblin Matron.
Yeah, not that bad. For 5, it could be worse. He also has the plateau to cast the Thalia if he doesn't want to wait with the Vial, as long as he draws a second land here. Which I don't know if he did. It looks like another Vial. Okay, not really what he wanted. He probably would have been much happier with the land there. Yep. Especially something like a Cavern of Souls.
Or a Goblin Lackey, for that matter.
Yeah, sure. So we'll see what Brian Cook has to do on his turn 2. You think he could go off already on turn 2 or no?
I would doubt it. I imagine. I mean, it's certainly possible.
Yeah, he did mulligan. You're right.
He did mulligan, so it's much more difficult, but it is certainly still possible. I would anticipate a discard spell.
Okay, maybe like
on this turn.
Cabal Therapy, do you think?
Cabal Therapy is a reasonable choice.
We'll see. I think if he had a Cabal Therapy, he would have went for it immediately to play around the Thalia. So.
Oh, he just top decked the Ad Nauseam, so yes, he is going to be able to go off this turn.
Ritual, wow, that's insane.
Yep, so
there's
Lion's Eye Diamond, Dark Ritual, Ad Nauseam.
Wow, this is some great draws from Brian Cook. We saw this last round where he just top decked the Ad Nauseam after having nothing.
Yep, that's a very fortunate draw for him, so he's going to be able to...
So he's on 15, he's on 14, 13, he goes down to 11.
Counting up the Storm there because that Infernal Tutor 10, is very important to completing the combo.
Yeah, 9. Let's see. Looks pretty good for Brian so far.
I think he needs a little bit more mana.
He's got 8.
There we go. That should be enough.
Yeah, 7. He's got Chromax now. He's on 5.
Well, he can go down to 4.
Yeah.
With impunity because the highest remaining casting cost card in his deck is Empty the Warrens, and if he brought in the Past in Flames, then that would be also, and Tendrils of Agony, of course.
Yeah.
So being at 5, he could go down to 4, but being at 4, he cannot afford to go down any further from there.
Yeah, so I think this might be enough.
Yeah, this looks like it's going to be enough. Bryant has to figure out the puzzle at this point, though.
Exactly, yeah.
Very difficult. He's going to drop down to 2.
That means if he wants to play that second Gitaxian Probe, he has to tap that Volcanic Island.
Yeah, I don't think that's the option.
All right, so there's Lion's Eye Diamond. So he's going to lead off with a Chrome Box.
Seeing if he wants the black mana here. He does.
Yeah, I think he probably does. There's a Lotus Petal, Lion's Eye Diamond, Lion's Eye Diamond. I think it's enough, right, Ruben? Or...
Yeah, he has a Storm of 7 already, and he has plenty of mana to be able to go off. So he's going to be able to chain Infernal Tutors for the last amount of Storm if he needs them.
Okay.
I think he's at 8 Storm right now. That's 9. It doesn't look like he'll need to chain Infernal Tutors. He already has enough Storm to be able to Tendrils. So what's going to happen now is he's going to get as much mana
Cabal Therapy
as he can into his pool, and then he's going to cast Burning Wish. And the Burning Wish, in response, he's going to maintain priority, find the Tendrils of Agony, and cast it for what looks to be about 13.
Yeah, I was going to say about 26. Yeah, 26 life change.
There you are.
That's it. Wow, turn 2, that's crazy.
Turn 2 on the mulligan. On the draw.
Yep.
Able to top deck the Ad Nauseam to pull a win pretty much out of nowhere.
Yeah, a really good top deck because he didn't have anything.
Fantastic top deck. That was